Welcome back to Morning Coffee here on the Radio Vision Network. That's right, we're just getting things prepped. We're making sure everything is all set because I have a very special guest sitting right to my right now. His name is Dr. Andrew Waskie. I'm saying that right because I checked, right?
Actually, it's Anthony.
Anthony Waskie.
But it's a long story.
Wait a second.
Very ethnic.
Wait a second.
Andy instead of Tony.
Okay.
And it has to do with my grandmother in the World War I.
Wow.
So,
all right, so is this a story we need to kick off with
no,
right
not
off the
really,
bat?
Because
no,
it has nothing to do with what I'm all about. But it's my grandfather, my father, me, and now my son. 4 generations, 100 years.
Wow, that's pretty
Andy.
impressive. But listen, so when the graphic comes up, it's gonna say Andrew.
Well, that's wrong, but that's okay.
All right, well we'll fix it. That's no worries about that. But
so I go by. Most people know me by Andy. If they use Anthony, well, if they use Tony, then I know they don't know me.
Right. That's like they think they're on the inside, and then they're like, oh, wait a second.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm just gonna call you Doc. How's that?
Well,
does that work?
Whatever turns your boat.
Well,
whatever floats your boat.
You've earned it, and you are a professor over at Temple University, and what we really wanted to talk about today is General Meade.
Yes,
this is a really
specialty of mine.
Yeah, this is excellent. I mean, you guys, I hope you know, and if you don't know, maybe you could do a little bit of research. But the Battle of Gettysburg was the biggest battle of the Civil War, and General Meade was the general who won that battle. Right?
Exactly.
Is that
he was the victor?
I don't want to give any bad information here. I'm very nervous to say anything because I don't want it to be wrong in the eyes of the experts. So let's talk about it from kind of the beginning. Where is this all coming from, and what are we all about?
Well, if you'd like to give me the opportunity to give you a brief overview of General Meade's life, I'd be glad to do that.
Sure.
First of all, he was from an old Philadelphia family of means. They were a Catholic family because the first Meade, his great-grandfather, arrived in 1732 from Ireland. He was a dedicated Catholic and founded Old St. Joseph's Catholic Church.
Okay.
Then General Meade's grandfather, after whom he was named, Honest George Meade, he was a businessman. They were quite wealthy. He founded Old St. Mary's down on 4th Street in Old City, St. Mary's Catholic Church, which was the cathedral earlier in history. And then his father, Richard Meade, who served, by the way, in the Whiskey Rebellion in the First City Troop, opened a shipping business and moved his family to Spain because of the lucrative nature of the shipping business that he was engaged in. While he was there, the Napoleonic Wars were fought, and he sided with the King of Spain. Okay. I don't want to get into a long discussion of that, but while he was there, he was also named a United States diplomat. This is General Meade's father.
Right.
So he was a consul representing the United States in southern Spain. While there, many of the Meade children, the siblings, were born along with General Meade, George Meade.
Okay.
So he was born on December 31st, 1815, in Cadiz, or Cadiz, as the Spanish say, Spain. Okay. But he's not Spanish. In other words, both his parents were Americans, and because he was the son of a diplomat, he had American citizenship. There was some consideration of, I mean, not from Meade himself, but from others after his great victory, that perhaps he might be a candidate for higher office, and he just laughed it off, but he said, I would be eligible, but I'm not interested.
Right.
So he returned with his mother, and I won't go into all the details, but he grew up and was educated in Philadelphia. He's a native Philadelphian.
Okay, cool.
And he wanted to go to the University of Pennsylvania, which you know well, but the family had fallen onto some financial difficulties, and so his mother resorted to requesting an appointment to the United States Military Academy for him. So he had some experience going to a military school in Philadelphia, but he wasn't really excited about going into the military, but he went because this was the only opportunity.
Right.
He excelled in math and in science, and the curriculum at West Point at that time was an engineering curriculum. All the cadets took engineering. Not all of them went into the engineers, only the elite. Nevertheless, he did go in and he excelled in his studies at West Point, but not the military aspects.
Right.
So he received a lot of demerits because he was not attentive to duty, etc. Anyway, he graduated in 1835, 19th in a class of 56. So he was in the upper half of the class.
Okay.
Anyway, he will go into the regular army. He will serve first in the artillery, and then later he will receive an appointment, because he was such a brilliant engineer, to the Corps of Engineers.
Okay.
Actually, the Topographical Corps of Engineers. I won't get into all the details, but there were two branches at that time. They have now merged since the Civil War.
Right.
And he became a famous engineer attached, serving in the Army, but attached to the what's known as the Coastal Survey. That's the Department of the Interior, and the Coastal Survey was in charge of mapping, charts, lighthouse construction, some building projects to improve harbor navigation, etc., and all those things that help to shipping and commerce and immigration, etc., etc.
Which was growing in huge
absolutely.
leaps
This is
and
the
bounds at that
1840s
time,
and 50s,
right?
and
Okay.
this is burgeoning. The country's burgeoning.
Right.
So this is very, very necessary. So he became an expert, particularly not only in surveys, and he did surveys of the Delta of the Mississippi and other rivers, but also in constructing lighthouses. And during his tenure, this is before the Civil War, he will build, design, or oversee the construction of 10 lighthouses.
Wow.
3 of them in southern New Jersey.
Wow. Okay.
Barnegat Light.
Nice.
That's his work, his handiwork.
Cool.
Absecon Light in
Yeah.
Atlantic City.
So famous.
And Cape May Light.
Love
These are the
that.
handiwork of General George Meade. Now, he was only a lieutenant at the time, and he was in charge of the lighthouse district encompassing southern New Jersey.
Right.
Later, he was also promoted to the district of southern Florida in the Keys, and he
Okay.
built 7 lighthouses in the Keys, the most famous being Jupiter Light, and the other one is, what's the famous island in the Keys? Key West.
Key West,
He
yeah.
was a Key West Light,
Okay.
and then some shoal lights and so on. So he was doing very, very good work for the country. He enjoyed it. He did go to the Mexican War. He was sent there, and he spent 2 years during the Mexican War as a staff officer to General Zachary Taylor, eventually became president,
Right.
and then later General Winfield Scott. Returned from the Mexican War, and he went back to his engineering work, but he was promoted to one of the greatest engineering projects in the history of the United States, the Survey of the Great Lakes.
Wow.
He was
Okay.
the superintendent of that survey for 5 years. And during his tenure as superintendent, 2 of the Great Lakes were completely charted, mapped, and hydrology, that is the currents and tides and things were all ascertained. And that was Huron and Superior. So he is responsible for the mapping, charting, depth soundings, etc. of Huron, Lake Huron, and Superior. In 5 years, pretty good work.
Yeah.
Then the Civil War broke out. He was a captain in the Corps of Engineers, in the regular army, but he had already been in war in Mexico, and he was in his mid-40s.
Right.
Some people said, you should just stay what you're doing. You're doing excellent work. It's important for the country. You've already been in combat. Don't go into the combat arms because we need you there.
Right.
But he said, no, this is the greatest period in our history, and I'm an experienced officer. I've seen combat. I must offer my services. So he did, and he was promoted from captain in the Corps of Engineers to Brigadier General of Pennsylvania Volunteer Troops.
That's quite a jump.
Yes,
Quite
overnight,
a jump.
with the signature of the governor of Pennsylvania on his commission as he became the commander of the 2nd Brigade of the Pennsylvania Reserve Corps, which essentially is the Pennsylvania National Guard today. And he saw combat with the Pennsylvania Reserves as a brigade commander, then later as the division commander, and then eventually, because of his competence, he was promoted to Corps Command, the Army of the Potomac, which was the army that protected the eastern seaboard, the eastern coast, and Washington, etc., called the Army of the Potomac. The armies were named after rivers.
Right.
He was raised to Corps Command, and there were 7 corps, and he commanded one of those corps in the Army of the Potomac, the 5th Corps, and he commanded them at Chancellorsville, which is the battle that precedes Gettysburg.
Mm-hmm.
He did a very excellent job there, even in defeat, though. Of course, we were defeated at Chancellorsville. And then when Lee decides to invade Pennsylvania in June of 1863, the Army begins to pursue Lee. Lee is in Pennsylvania first. He has all kinds of ideas, what he wants to do. The Army, finally, the American Army, the Army of the Potomac, follows up. But just before the battle starts, the administration, Lincoln and the other leaders, etc., decided that they could not trust the present commander in the next battle because he had essentially lost his nerve at the Battle of Chancellorsville, and he was also cantankerous.
Yeah,
and that's, you know who that is?
I think I do, but
Okay,
I have to take a break.
Okay.
I want to take a break and then come back and tell everybody about that because we've led right up to the war now. We're almost at the battle. This is where we're going.
Exactly.
So Dr. Waskie is going to hang for 1 second, and we're going to come right back. Okay, so hang through this break, and we'll be right back here on the Radio Vision Network. Stick around.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to give a sub some sizzle, this is the way. The way it's always been. The way it always should be. The way it always will be. Because that's just the way it's supposed to be. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
My dream job is to run and manage my own spa one day.
To be the general manager for the Jumeirah Hotel in Abu Dhabi, Dubai.
I feel that Mercier's has prepared me very well for my future in the hospitality industry.
The kitchen is incredible.
You are planning the meal, doing all the costing and the recipes. You're in charge of everything going on in the kitchen.
They really do get you prepared, and they want to make sure that you have a job after college.
When it comes to injuries,
they're not all created equal.
That's why at Performance Spine and Sports Medicine,
our team of doctors will coordinate and customize your care
to provide the best treatment options using the area's most advanced medical technology.
All with one goal in mind.
To get you back in the game.
We call life.
Pain-free.
Drug-free.
Surgery-free. That's what we do here at Performance Spine and Sports Medicine.
Get better faster.
Stay better longer.
Saving your business money is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Tanker Consulting Services, a payment solutions expert, will show you how with a free, detailed, written analysis illustrating your cost savings. We usually uncover savings between 10 and 25%, and sometimes more. We can help your business succeed by providing reliable and secure merchant payment solutions such as merchant services programs, point-of-sale systems, and ATM machines. TCS, one of the leaders in regional credit card processing consulting, offers electronic payments to merchants locally and nationwide through our preferred vendor programs. We work to keep business costs down with a comprehensive suite of quality products, services, and customized credit card processing programs exclusively tailored for your company. TCS is convenient, reliable, and innovative, with customer service available 24/7, 365 days a year. Our in-depth industry knowledge, partnership strategy, and innovative processing solutions allow for a specialized approach to providing merchant bank processing with 100% full fee disclosure. TCS is one-stop shopping for all your merchant services solutions. Our clients save money 100% of the time. Trust Tanker Consulting Services, the knowledgeable, professional, and friendly provider of secure payment services. We set the standard by which others are measured. Call now for a free written analysis. 609-922-0201.
Today's show has been sponsored by More Than Gifts. Come see our new location in Marlton, New Jersey. Not just gifts, but more.
Welcome back to Morning Coffee here on the Radio Vision Network. I am Mark Cook, and man, I'm having just as awesome a conversation off the air as I am on the air because this stuff is so interesting. And I'm talking to Dr. Waskie here. And you guys, I don't know if you remember, about a month ago, I had an author in, and he was talking about General Charles Ferguson Smith. And if you remember, he was saying like, oh, well, Charles Ferguson Smith was the real brains behind all of the operations in the North, and he didn't really like General Grant, but he wasn't loud about it. It was the other guys that kind of pushed Grant up because he had a bigger personality than Charles Ferguson Smith. And it's so amazing because now Dr. Waskie is telling me all of these same things. This is absolutely how it happened. But there was another general that was involved with all of this kind of, I'll say rigmarole, it's not really the right word, but there was a lot of jockeying for position from 1861 or so to about 1864 while they were still 65 while they were still trying to really end the war at that
point. Find a command structure who would then prosecute the war to a successful conclusion.
So let's talk about that. We've led up to we during that last break. We led up to the point where Robert E. Lee has decided he wanted to move into Pennsylvania, and he beat the Northern armies into Pennsylvania.
Preceded by almost a week. Yes,
that is crazy to me.
He's already in the state of Pennsylvania, gathering supplies, acquiring information and intelligence, seeking to capture cities like Harrisburg, maybe even Philadelphia,
right,
and disrupt the Union war effort and bring a successful conclusion to the war with the result of Southern independence for the Confederacy, with the continuation of the scourge of slavery. So this is the most pivotal moment in American history up to that time.
Right.
And the commander of the Army of the Potomac, who was his opponent, is a very interesting character for many reasons.
That's probably
and
putting
when
it
I
nicely.
say his name,
yeah.
You'll know why. General Hooker.
Oh.
General Hooker.
Okay.
Now, all the things you're thinking about right now are true.
Awesome.
General Joseph Hooker.
Okay. That's when
had
we
a
now know where
reputation,
the term comes from.
Much of it was correct and deserved. He was in command of the army. He had lost the Battle of Chancellorsville, essentially because he had lost his nerve and he was stunned during the action when a piece of the woodwork of the Chancellorsville mansion hit him when it was struck by a shell, and he was but he refused to give up command, and he kept, even though he was unconscious and unable to command or send directions, he refused to give in. Anyway, interesting character, not a very good commander.
Right.
So the administration decides that the next action that it's coming, everybody knows that there's a great battle coming, that they cannot rely on General Hooker.
Right.
It's just too important. This is the pivotal moment, turning point in American history.
Right.
And if Lee is able to defeat our army in Pennsylvania, it probably will result in some kind of maybe negotiated independence for the South, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, the North was going to lose if the South took Pennsylvania.
That was a distinct possibility.
Yeah.
So they couldn't trust Hooker. However, they're in the middle of a campaign, and so they can't halt the action, ask for a timeout,
right,
and try to bring somebody in, that's politically acceptable and so on. So they had to pick somebody who was on the field there, who was actually. So there was a huge debate in the administration about, well, whom should we normally in that situation you'd go by seniority. That was the old system. The most senior officer, would step in, but they couldn't do that because they were also not competent, and some of them were politically active, and there were political considerations. There were skill considerations, etc. So finally, they decided on an obscure Pennsylvania scholarly engineer who kept his mouth shut and did his duty without ever causing problems, and that was General George G. Meade. He was one of the 7 corps commanders. These were the lieutenants of the commanding general.
Right.
And he was commanding the 5th Corps, and perhaps best in his favor was he was a Pennsylvanian.
Right. Well, that's what I'm thinking. You got to go.
President Lincoln was quoted, this was quoted later, in a cabinet meeting saying that Meade will do well on his own dunghill. Dunghill meaning Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Now, I wonder if the voters of Pennsylvania had known that, if they would have voted for him in 1864.
Yeah, what was he mad about?
Well,
Why
he's not mad. He was a very earthy guy, and he used these terms kind of humorously, half humorously. And nobody ever knew it, except it was later published. I think maybe Gideon Welles, the Secretary of the Navy, might have written in his journal, and that came out after the war.
Right,
it was
later,
too late to worry about it. Anyway, so General Meade is awakened from his tent outside the city of Frederick, Maryland, about 30 miles south of Gettysburg, at 3 o'clock in the morning of June 28th, 1863, and ordered to take command of the army.
You're promoted.
Yes.
Get up, you're
And by the way,
promoted.
3 days before the greatest battle in American history is going to be fought. You're going to be in command of the Army, our only Army.
Good luck with all that.
And you know, we don't know exactly when, but it's going to be soon. It's going to be probably in Pennsylvania. So, do your best, please. Save the nation.
Yeah, we're all counting on
So,
you.
General
Right?
Meade's first reaction was, "Well, I don't want to be in command.
Yeah.
You know, this is not something that is. I mean, I don't know where our army is. I don't know where the enemy is. I don't know. You know, this is amazing.
You're setting me up to fail here,
Exactly.
really.
I mean, that's what the thoughts I'm sure were going through his head.
Yeah.
So, but when the order was a signed order from the president, he's a loyal Army officer, 24 years of service in the United States Army. He's reluctantly accepted and said he'll do his best. He always executed every order to the best of his ability, and he didn't care about his accolades and press reports. He only cared about the results being positive, which would then reflect on him. In other words, if we win and I played a role in it, I'm happy, I'm satisfied. I've served my nation. And that was the noblesse oblige of the upper social strata of officers in the Army in those days. You know, he came from the social elite of Philadelphia, of course, and was educated to that degree. In other words, you do these things because we are suited. You are suited. You are able. You are fated to be a leader, and you're prepared for it. You're educated to it. So we have to do our duty. Therefore, that was the noblesse oblige of the period. So he assumes command, immediately gets his army under control. We're talking 90,000 troops, and they're all on different roads, advancing towards towards Pennsylvania.
They're coming up from the south.
They're coming up from Virginia, across the Potomac, into Maryland. They're in central Maryland. Lee's in Pennsylvania somewhere. He's scattered all over the place. So the first thing he has to do is he has to devise some kind of general strategy and plan. And Lee was trying to send troops to capture a bridge across the Susquehanna between Wrightsville and Columbia. And this was a long, big bridge, a wooden bridge. It had a railroad line on it, wagons, etc. And had they been able to capture that bridge unimpeded, they could have simply marched across that long bridge and marched 10 miles to Harrisburg and capture the capital of the second most populous state in the Union and cut the Pennsylvania Railroad east-west line.
They would have cut it in
major
half.
supply line would have disrupted, or he could have turned on Lancaster, another important hub, or even Philadelphia was not unimaginable.
It wasn't out of reach. Yeah,
absolutely. And of course, that was the great arsenal of the Union. My book, by the way, on the history of Philadelphia and the Civil War is The Arsenal of the Union.
Arsenal of the Union.
Civil War. The Philadelphia and the Civil War, the Arsenal of the Union.
Where do I get it? Amazon?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Look,
It's a history
search
press.
it on Amazon. Get
History
that.
press.
Get that.
So what happens is the Pennsylvania militia, which had been called out in the emergency, did something right. And I'm not doing a pun on Wrightsville, by the way. They did something correct, and as they were able to burn the bridge to take away the easy access to the Confederate troops. So they were stymied. I mean, to bring up bridges and build them across the river. I mean, it's a mile-wide river there.
Yeah, Susquehanna River was an important access. It was an important access
one of the great rivers of the East.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, that changes Lee. All his options are now similarly reduced, and now all of a sudden he has to pull back and reassess what he's doing now because he can't get across the Susquehanna onto the eastern shore. Coupled with the news, he finds out through a spy that the Union Army is approaching rapidly from the south into your rear.
Wow. Okay.
That's one of the worst things that can happen.
Yeah, right?
Particularly in the Army. And so all of a sudden now he is placed on the defensive. And he has to consolidate his troops. He had sent them scattering all out in south central Pennsylvania in all directions trying to gather supplies, information, and so on and so forth. So now he decides that he is going to consolidate his troops, bring them all together east of the mountain because we have the South Mountain Range. If he would go over that mountain, he'd be safe, but then he wouldn't be able to have his great victory that he's planning on. So he's going to stay east of the mountain on the open plains of central Pennsylvania and near a road hub, which has 10 roads and a railroad emanating in and out of it, Gettysburg. Anywhere you go within South Central Pennsylvania, you have to go in or through or by Gettysburg.
Right.
So he decides to consolidate just west of Gettysburg at a place called Cashtown, which is near to the mountain in case he has to resort to a retreat or strike out towards Gettysburg and control the road hubs. General Meade realizes what's happening. He knows Lee. They had served together in the Mexican War. They even slept in a tent together at Veracruz in Mexico. They knew each other well. They were both engineers, so they came from similar backgrounds. They knew one another well. And Lee and Meade decided, he thought that's exactly what Lee was going to do, because he would have done the same thing.
Right.
So he sent, but he had to react to threats from other directions.
Right.
Because there were reports of, Confederate troops all the way to the Susquehanna, et cetera, et cetera. That's 100 miles.
Right.
So he decided to put his largest number of troops together on the left and give the command to his very dear friend and the best general he had in the Union Army, John Fulton Reynolds. General Reynolds. They had been very, very close friends, intimate friends. They had come up together in the Pennsylvania Reserves. And he was the best general. In fact, the command of the Army had been offered to him before Meade when the administration was considering a change.
Wow.
And they brought him in and interviewed him and said, well, we'd like to offer you the command. And he said, well, the only way I'll take the command, I'm paraphrasing here, is if you give me complete control. I don't want to have to answer to anybody.
Right.
And he said, well, we're not ready to do that yet. They're going to be able to do it with Grant, though, of course, later.
Right. I'm going to have to stop you right there.
Okay.
Because I got to take another break.
All
This
right.
is what's going to happen. We're just going to, it goes so fast, right?
Yes, it
because
does.
it's so,
it does. There's so much to say.
Yeah, we do. We still have so much to get to. So stay right there. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back here on the Radio Vision Network. Stick around.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to give a sub some sizzle, this is the way. The way it's always been. The way it always should be. The way it always will be. Because that's just the way it's supposed to be. Jersey Mike's. Be a sub above.
My dream job is to run and manage my own spa one day.
To be the general manager for the Jumeirah Hotel in Abu Dhabi, Dubai.
I feel that Mercier has prepared me very well for my future in the hospitality industry.
The kitchen is incredible.
You are planning the meal, doing all the costing and the recipes. You're in charge of everything going on in the kitchen.
They really do get you prepared, and they want to make sure that you have a job after college.
When it comes to injuries,
They're not all created equal.
that's why at Performance Spine and Sports Medicine,
Our team of doctors will coordinate and customize your care.
to provide the best treatment options using the area's most advanced medical technology,
All with one goal in mind.
to get you back in the game,
We call life
pain-free,
drug-free.
surgery-free. That's what we do here at Performance Spine and Sports Medicine.
Get better faster.
Stay better longer.
Saving your business money is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Tanker Consulting Services, a payment solutions expert, will show you how with a free, detailed, written analysis illustrating your cost savings. We usually uncover savings between 10 and 25%, and sometimes more. We can help your business succeed by providing reliable and secure merchant payment solutions such as merchant services programs, point-of-sale systems, and ATM machines. TCS, one of the leaders in regional credit card processing consulting, offers electronic payments to merchants locally and nationwide through our preferred vendor programs. We work to keep business costs down with a comprehensive suite of quality products, services, and customized credit card processing programs exclusively tailored for your company. TCS is convenient, reliable, and innovative, with customer service available 24/7, 365 days a year. Our in-depth industry knowledge, partnership strategy, and innovative processing solutions allow for a specialized approach to providing merchant bank processing with 100% full fee disclosure. TCS is one-stop shopping for all your merchant services solutions. Our clients save money 100% of the time. Trust Tanker Consulting Services, the knowledgeable, professional, and friendly provider of secure payment services. We set the standard by which others are measured. Call now for a free written analysis. 609-922-0201.
Today's show has been sponsored by More Than Gifts. Come see our new location in Marlton, New Jersey. Not just gifts, but more.
Welcome back to Morning Coffee here on the Radio Vision Network. I am Mark Cook, and this is just, it's going by way too fast because it's so interesting. I'm talking to Dr. Waskie, and he is a professor over at Temple University. You guys all know Temple over in Philly. And I just said to him during the break that I wish I had him as one of my professors when I was in college, because you're so passionate about how you're talking about everything that it just shows me how much you care about this. And you had a specific reason for coming in today. You wanted to talk about a little bit about the Grand Army of the Republic Museum and Library, as well as the Civil War Museum. But I know that you sent over a bunch of pictures, and I want to take a look at them. And I moved the monitor so that we can see here. I want you to tell everybody what we're looking at.
Well, this picture is a group of our members of the General Meade Society at General Meade's headquarters at Gettysburg, called the Widow Leicester House.
Okay.
And that was a small little house behind the line, in the center of the line at Gettysburg. And that was heavily damaged during the battle by shell fire and so on. It has been repaired, but we have adopted that. The park has a program where you adopt a position. And what you do is you go, as your group goes and does kind of fix up work, clean up work, etc. So
maintenance type.
Exactly.
Stuff.
And our committee, headed by Gene and Tom Benner, Ginny Benner. Excuse me, Ginny. Sorry. They have a committee that goes and plants flowers and herbs in the flower beds, which actually were there at the time of the battle.
Oh, that's cool.
Twice a year, and plus they clean up around the headquarters area. And if you go up the hill, up the ridge, that cemetery ridge, the General Meade's monument is right at the top. And so we pull weeds and do whatever it takes to clean it up a little bit. We do it twice a year.
That's really
cool. So that's
cool.
the group outside of the Leicester House where General Meade had his famous council of war on the evening of July the 2nd, the second day of the battle, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it is just like history coming alive. So I know we've got a bunch of pictures, so we just want to kind of run through them. So this
is the Meade Monument in Washington on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Right down the street from the White House.
Exactly. And it is in front of the federal courthouse near the Academy of the Fine Arts, or the National Gallery. The National Gallery. It's on the right-hand side. Controversial statue because it was built and dedicated in 1927, which was after most of the historic monuments with the very heroic-looking horses and things.
Yeah.
And we went into a different style of sculpture called Art Deco.
Right.
And this was done by Charles Grafley, who was a famous Art Deco sculptor from Philadelphia, from the University of Pennsylvania. And so it's not quite what you might think as heroic, particularly the naked men holding General Meade up around him.
Yeah, it's almost.
I mean, I know they're symbolic of virtue and strength.
Well,
and so on,
that's.
but it doesn't look exactly what should be.
They've created almost like a deity, some sort of image, like a little bit more grandiose than maybe the intention, but. It's a beautiful. I mean, it is a beautiful statue.
It's wonderful, but very different from the other ones that you see along Pennsylvania Avenue.
Right.
The heroic.
The horse with the hat up, exactly. And all that stuff.
By the way, I have to tell you an interesting story.
Sure.
One of his veterans from the Battle of Gettysburg, and his name escapes me right now, was asked to do the keynote address. He delivered the address, stepped back, and fell dead on the podium.
Oh my gosh!
90 years old.
Wow!
So I guess the supreme sacrifice, in a sense.
Yeah.
At the time. So
everything had come full circle.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. All right, let's go. Okay. So these are a little bit more of the traditional ones we were talking about.
Now this is more traditional because this is the Meade Equestrian Monument that nobody knows about in Philadelphia, West Fairmount Park.
I was just gonna say that's in Fairmount Park. I know that.
It's in West Fairmount Park.
St. Joe's guy.
but it's behind Memorial Hall.
Okay.
And so most people go into Memorial Hall and they don't look in the rear.
Right.
And if you keep going, there's a road there, but it's a dead end road, so nobody goes on it unless you're doing crime or something.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's from the other side.
And we do ceremonies there. And in fact, we are trying. The Mead Society is trying and attempting to have the monument moved. We've done a lot of work. We've talked to City Council. We've talked to the present mayor. And we'd like to have it moved to a more prominent position. Originally, it was supposed to go to City Hall, where there already are a couple of monuments of generals. And it was supposed to go on the west front, which is the Dilworth Plaza, facing west towards Gettysburg.
Yeah.
But the family insisted it be put in Fairmount Park because General Meade founded Fairmount Park. He was the first commissioner, and he served as vice president of the commission until his death. And he lavished attention, and he helped design Fairmount Park. So he loved the park, and it was appropriate then. But now nobody goes there. Nobody knows about it. So we're trying to have it moved. But it was dedicated in 1887.
Okay.
At the time of that's like about 25 years or so after the war, after the Battle of Gettysburg.
Right.
And the speaker was one of his generals, General Gibbon.
Okay.
General John Gibbon delivered the address. It was a 2-hour address.
Oh, wow. That's a long one.
So that's a wonderful, and it's near the Philadelphia Civil War Monument.
Okay.
There, and one of the columns, there are 2 columns on the monument. One is General Reynolds, who was killed at the battle, his very close friend. The other is General Meade.
Okay.
All right, so that's right around the corner from where
that monument is.
Yes.
Do I have any more pictures beyond? Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow.
Now this is
like
Laurel Hill, where General Meade is buried. I am the board, and I'm a historian at Laurel Hill.
Yeah.
And every year on December the 31st, his birthday, we gather to honor him and celebrate his birthday. And so we have a parade, a march to his grave. We have speeches, wreath layings, and then we have champagne toasts.
That sounds...
Because champagne was his favorite drink.
That sounds cool, and that's open to the public, right?
It is.
Everybody can
absolutely
come
free
and
of charge.
check that out. New Year's Eve.
Donations,
that's
course.
Early New Year's Eve. That's like the
12 noon.
The perfect time.
So this year will be Saturday, December 31st, 2016. It's the 20th, by the way, the 20th anniversary of the founding of the Mead Society, which happened at this ceremony.
Right.
This is General Meade's grave. Now the tree behind it was recently removed. It was 175 years old and was about ready to collapse and fall down. So they removed the tree, but we replaced it with a new tree, a white oak, 20 feet tall, 10 years old.
Wow.
Which can live to be 300 years old.
Okay,
We
so
were
it's not
present
going
at that.
anywhere.
But this is his grave, very humble, simple grave, in keeping with his personality. He was a humble man. He always directed the praise to others for what they had done.
Yeah, I mean, it was such a simple stone. It was like really, it was very kind of interesting how simple it was. I was very lucky. Recently, I was out in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania, and I was at one of their cemeteries, and they've got a lot of old, ornate stones for people that probably weren't as important as General Meade.
Were you aware that a cannon factory?
Well, the steel, yeah, of course.
Was located in Phoenixville, which created one of the best cannons used during the Civil War, the 3-inch ordnance rifle. Was at Phoenix Iron Works.
Yeah, the Iron Works is basically how the town got its name. I mean,
they had a connection to the Civil War.
Yeah, this is excellent. Now, Dr. Waskie, we are running out of time, so I wanted to make
the Union League.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that we got to everything that you wanted to get to, because you just gave everybody such great information, and I want to make sure that we hit it all. So, Union League.
If I could be, in Philadelphia, we have a very strong history community and very closely tied to the Civil War. Most people think of Philadelphia as a Revolutionary War city, and it was, but much more happened during the Civil War. One of the things was an organization known as the Union League of Philadelphia. It was founded the end of December 27, 1862, to support the Lincoln administration and the war effort. They raised thousands of troops. The building was built and dedicated, or opened in May of 1865. And it is a museum of Civil War history, as well as a social a club, et cetera, et cetera. But they do great work. They have foundations, lots of history. And I'm one of the founders of the Civil War Roundtable that meets there. I'm also a member of the American Legion Post that meets there. In fact, tonight is our meeting, 6 p.m. It's open to the public. And the Armed Services Council, which still continues the work of the military committee of the Union League, which was one of the first committees formed. Last thing is the Grand Army of the Republic Civil War Museum and Library in Frankfurt section of Philadelphia. The website is www.garmuslib.org. We're open once a week. We're all volunteers Tuesdays, noon to 4. Huge collection of things, including General Meade's horse. General Meade is buried in the ground, and his horse still lives.
That is an old horse, let me tell you.
So if you want to see his horse, you come to our museum. We have to take very good care of him. It's old Baldy, well as many, many other artifacts, archives, photographs, books, and so on. We're a treasure trove of Civil War history. And the last thing is Laurel Hill Cemetery, as I mentioned, is the Valhalla of Philadelphia. 43 Civil War era generals, 7 Medal of Honor recipients, 10 admirals, and thousands of veterans. We honor them, by the way, on Memorial Day. We have a Memorial Day service which took place there for many, many years, organized by Post 1 of the GAR, the Meade Post.
Nice.
And we continue that tradition. And then, of course, the birthday on the 31st. And that is a treasure trove of not only military history, but history in general.
Yeah, I mean, this is fantastic. Do you realize all of this stuff that is right here in our backyard? You probably didn't, because I didn't, and I've lived here almost my whole life, and I know you have too. And it's right here for us, folks. And all you got to do is just get involved. It's amazing to be able to preserve and understand where we've come from to truly see where we're going, and I think that's kind of why it becomes a life mission, and why it's become your life mission, is to truly understand. And it's understanding that leads us to clarity in the future, and it is just such an amazing thing. Now, before I let you go,
well said, by the way. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You very much.
Oh, you're quite welcome. My pleasure. My pleasure. I just wanted to make sure if there were any websites or email addresses or anything, if you want to deliver to that camera right there, time is yours.
Well, again, I represent a number of organizations. The first would be the General Meade Society. We invite you all to come and see our events and what we do. www.generalmeadsociety.org. The GAR Museum, the Civil War Museum in Frankfurt. That's www.garmuslib.org. And then Laurel Hill Cemetery, which is a National Historic Shrine, 2 signers of the Declaration of Independence. And as I mentioned, all General Smith, of course, and General Lee, and a plethora of others. And that is www.laurelhillcemetery.org.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
Please come out to all of these, and you can enhance your knowledge of history, be engaged and involved, and seek to preserve the history.
And that's the part I like about it, is that you don't have to sit and read a textbook. You can actually go and see, touch, feel, and really, a lot of people say, oh, well, history comes alive. Well, we're really lucky here in Philadelphia because it comes alive all over the place. It's really, really an interesting dynamic, and it takes guys like Dr. Waskie to make sure that happens. So again, Doctor, thank you so much for coming in this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I got to take another quick break here on Morning Coffee, but don't go anywhere, folks, because we're going to be right back here on Radio Vision Network. Stick around.
When it's time for Jersey Mike's to give a sub some sizzle, this is the way.